Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Meredith E. Phillips. I'm a writer, reader, and bunny mama. Today I'm going to be doing kind of an older tag. It is the story idea writing tag that was first created by Brook, Passmore and Bethany Atazadeh. I'll link both of their videos down in the description for you. They posted their videos in 2018, so this is a little old, but I really enjoyed the questions. I enjoyed their videos and some other people's videos too who have done the tag, so I thought I would do it too, even though no one tagged me, but that's fine, and share my answers with you. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. Question number 1 is current story. What is your current story idea that you're working on right now? My current story is a historical romance set in 1880s Kansas. It uses the marriage of convenience trope, which if you watched this video, you know that the marriage of convenience trope is my all-time favorite trope to read about in romances, so obviously I'm gonna use it in my book too. I'm currently working on revising the first draft. You can see my current progress in the revision trenches in this video up here. The second question is spark of inspiration. Do your ideas begin with characters, plot, world building, or something else entirely? My stories almost always start with a plot-based element. It's usually a specific plot point or a scene that sounds really interesting that I want to fill out into a complete story. The first story that I was writing several years back ended up starting with the idea of the magic system that I was using in that. And my current story started with the marriage of convenience trope being set in a Western sort of setting. Question number 3 is brainstorm. How do you puzzle piece your story elements together? Do you start with the ending and make your way to the beginning, or vice versa? I don't know if I have a consistent answer for this. There are some stories where I know exactly where it's supposed to start, and there's other stories I've done where I know exactly where I want it to end. There are some stories I've started where I know sort of pieces from the middle of the novel and I need to fill it out from the middle. Usually though, what I end up doing is I do a huge brain dump first. I've usually been thinking about it, thinking about different scenes, different kinds of characters, that sort of stuff, and I eventually get to the point where I just start writing all of it down on either sometimes a pad of paper, but usually in a Scrivener document. I'll just start typing whatever is in my brain about this particular story. Then I try to go back through those notes and flesh out who are the main characters, what their personalities are like, just really general kinds of ideas here. I'm still not in a super intense like character sketch mode or anything like that. I try to map out major plot points, twists, things like that, and then I get to the point where I'm ready to do a slightly more formal outline, starting with the inciting incident and kind of going from there. When I'm doing a sort of formal kind of outline for myself, I almost always start with the beginning portion of the outline, introducing the main characters, the inciting incident, that type of thing, and I work my way toward the ending. Question number 4 is keep or toss. How do you know when you want to keep or dump a story idea? I actually have a video that I'm gonna do in a couple weeks on this topic, but I'll give you kind of a quick sneak peek answer here. There's two big things that to me stand out in terms of whether I'm gonna toss something or at least put it aside for the foreseeable future. The first one being if I've just fallen out of love with the project. If you don't like the project at all, then I don't see the point in working on it anymore. Now, of course, you're gonna have points in every story project that you get frustrated with it or you dislike portions of how it's coming together, and that's fine. I don't think you should toss that. But if you truly have fallen out of love with the entire thing, you don't like the characters, you don't like the story, you don't like the setting, you just don't like the whole premise of the plot or anything about it, time to get rid of it. The other thing that has happened for me is I'll have a really cool idea or something I think is really cool. Sometimes I'll start writing it. Sometimes I will write book 2. Sometimes I'll rewrite book 1. Sometimes I've gotten to the point where I realized I'm not qualified to write this story. And in one instance, it was the fact that I was trying to write a YA fantasy. I'd never written anything before, and the whole idea of world building and the magic system I had in mind and all of these I had like 3 or 4 main characters whose plot lines all had to intersect in the right way, and it was just a way bigger story than I was able to write at the time. My writing skills were not at at a level where I could map all of that out and put it together in a cohesive way. So I have that story completely on a back burner at this point. I still do really love the initial sort of story seed that I started with for that fantasy novel. So maybe at some point I will come back to it, but at the moment it's definitely on a back burner. The other story idea I had that I ended up putting aside because I was like, you can't write this, was my garbage trucks in space story, which I kind of previewed a little bit in this video up here on organizing story ideas. I had this idea for garbage trucks in space, which I know sounds stupid, but it was really cool. And I started writing all these notes for it, and then I was like, you don't read sci-fi. And it had a lot of sci-fi kind of elements to it, and I was like, what are you doing? You can't write in a genre that you don't read in. I believe that. I know some people try, and I don't think it usually turns out very good. I don't read sci-fi typically. I have read sci-fi books, but it's not really my go-to genre. And yeah, I put that one aside for the moment. Okay, question 5, original idea. How much of your original idea for your story is actually used once everything is finished? I actually end up using quite a bit of my original idea in the finished product, at least thus far in my writing journey. Again, typically my ideas start with the really basic story idea, the story seed, a plot element, something like that I'm really excited about, and that doesn't change. Sometimes characters change, sometimes different types of plot elements change or plot points will change, but that really basic story that I started with almost always stays pretty much the same as how I conceived it in the early stages of the project. Question 6, hide or share? Do you share your book ideas with friends or keep them a secret? I keep them a big secret because the idea of sharing is still not the first thing I go to. I did do a video last week about when to share your ideas or when to reach out for feedback. I'll link that up here for you if you're interested. But generally, I have to be really confident in the idea. I'm not gonna share an idea I had yesterday. I'm not, because I don't know yet if it's anything halfway decent or not. And so I definitely hide stuff until it's gotten to a point where I really, really need feedback on it. Question 7, dream. Have any of your book ideas originated with a dream or nightmare? No. I don't dream very often, and the dreams I have are usually really weird and not, in my mind, not story fodder. That's a no for me. Question 8, doppelganger. Have you ever had an idea for a story but then seen a similar premise in a book or TV show or movie? I think this is gonna depend a little bit on how specific we're being. Have I thought of a story and then seen specific plot points or specific scenes from my idea in another storytelling medium? No. Have I seen general types of characters, tropes, that kind of thing? I mean, obviously, yes, I've seen that in all kinds of different places before, but I don't feel like I've ever seen a TV show or a movie or something like that I feel like is, oh my gosh, that is my idea in this other person's work. I've never had that experience, thankfully, so we'll see if that lasts. Question number 9, big screen inspiration. Have any of your favorite movies or TV shows sparked ideas for scenes in your book? I don't think I've ever had a movie or a TV show spark a whole scene idea for me, but I definitely have had movies and TV shows spark inspiration in some other manner. Now, I do have an entire series on my channel on being inspired by film. I'll link that up here for you if you're interested in checking that out. For my current work in progress though, it's an 1880s Kansas Western setting. One of my favorite movies of all time and my all-time favorite Western is 1958's The Big Country. This is a fantastic movie for anyone. If you're the type of person that thinks you don't like Westerns, that's just not, you don't care about cowboys and stuff, watch The Big Country. It is not your typical Western. Does it take place in the West? Yes. Are there cowboys? Yes. Are there horses? Yes. Is there a gunfight? Yes, but the main character is completely different than the typical sort of rough and tumble cowboy character, and a lot of the scenery and the mood and the atmosphere from that film has definitely been in my mind and inspired my current work in progress. I also listened to the music from that movie quite a lot while I was writing the first draft, and if you want cowboy, American, Western kind of music, the soundtrack for that movie is fantastic. Okay, final question, question 10 is nostalgia. What's the oldest or first story idea you remember coming up with and writing down? I didn't write a whole lot of stories growing up. The only real story, fictional story I can remember writing was in 6th grade. We had a thing that we did at our school every year, or every other year, called Young Authors. And it was a program that I don't remember if the school put it together or if it was some like nationwide program, I don't know. But as students, we were required to submit some sort of fictional story piece to this little contest. It wasn't super intense or anything, but they did have us as an assignment in class do these stories, and so I was not interested in writing a fictional story. And I think part of that stems from the fact that at this school, which I loved my school, it was a great school, but the writing portion of our classes was very heavily focused on formal sorts of writing, essays, reports, critical thinking kinds of things, which is an excellent skill to have, and I'm very glad that I have those skills from my schooling, but we didn't really do a whole lot of creative writing. So when it came to writing for this contest, I was like, I don't know, I did not care about writing a fictional story, but it was required to, so I ended up writing some sort of story. I don't even remember like what the main plot points were, or if it had plot points. It probably didn't. It took place in the Civil War, and it was like a time traveling thing. So like a girl from the present day time traveled back to Civil War times. It wasn't very good, and it definitely did not win anything. Hey, it's future editing, Meredith. Sorry I'm looking a little rough here, but I'm just editing. I'm not filming today, so you know, this is the regular look. Anyway, I cannot believe that I forgot about this other fictional thing that I wrote in middle school. One of my friends in 8th grade, we found out that one of the other guys in our class had a crush on her, and we were all like, tee! And I started writing this like soap opera. It was called Lover's Tribulations, and it starred my friend and this other guy in our class. And in real life, the guy had moved, and so they were like separated. And so in my little serial that I was writing for my friends, the two star-crossed lovers were trying to get back together. And it was really, really lame. I think I still have a couple of them somewhere. I'd have to dig around and try to find them, but they were pretty fun to write. Anyway, so just wanted to mention that because it was a fictional thing that I wrote in middle school. Okay, bye. But after that, I really didn't write anything that was fictional until a few years ago when I had this story idea, and I thought I'll just try writing it down. And that was that YA fantasy I was talking about earlier with the really complex magic system that I didn't really know how to put together because I didn't have any experience in doing that. But I will say I had a ton of fun writing that first draft. Okay, those are the 10 questions on this story idea tag. If you do this tag, I'd love to see your video for it. Leave a link in the comments below, or let me know if you plan on doing it, and I'll keep an eye on your channel for that video. Let me know too, I'm super interested. I always love hearing where people get their story ideas from, or how they kind of come to you in your mind. I know sometimes it's hard to pin down exactly where they come from, but let me know in the comments, where do your story ideas tend to come from? Do you start with characters? Do you start with plot? Let me know some of those details in the comments. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more content from me, click the subscribe button. I post videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can also find me over on Instagram at Meredith Phillips Writes. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Why am I already having difficulties? Today I'm going to be a formal kind of outline for myself. I make videos on Tuesday. I make videos on the weekends, and I post them. Good.